So this is actually a video that I'm going to respond to a question that Maggie got sent to her in email. Maggie and Tim are both doing their own versions of the videos, so I'll link those actually down below. Goodness, it's so bright. And I think this question is fantastic. And I don't think this is something that's talked about enough in either the positive mindset, law of attraction, or law of assumption type of communities. I think this is something that's kind of ignored and a lot of people have questions about. And I want to be very upfront that I don't have all the answers, right? Like I am on my own journey of like self discovery and figuring stuff out. And I certainly do not know everything, and I don't wanna pretend like I do. I think anybody who kinda goes out and pretends like their answer is the end all be all, like, without a doubt, I would kinda question their intentions because, at least from my side, I am constantly learning. Like, I definitely don't know everything. I'm constantly having, like, new revelations and new epiphanies of, like, how stuff works or how I can get it to work in my own life, and so this is just coming from my perspective currently, the way that I see things, the way that I feel about things, and how I kind of feel in my own heart about this topic. Um, and so the question was about, in the law of community or the law of assumption community, you see a lot of people talking about like specific people and wealth and manifesting all of this like kind of stuff into their life. And even if you want to talk about like positive mindset, any of those type of communities, those are the things that you're hearing about more often. And the question was around, but what about the state of global affairs, like recessions and wars? And is that something that we're concerned about? Or really asking Maggie, is that something you're concerned about? Do you pay attention to it? And that it really throws them off, especially when they consider wars. And, there's some horrific things that are going on in the world. And I don't think that it's just now. I think there's always been horrific things that have gone on in the world. And when I kind of learned about um, all of this and started leaning into my own faith and my own understanding, this was an area that I struggled. Like, how am I supposed to understand what the purpose of this is? And I still don't think there's like necessarily a purpose. And if there is one, I'm not in a position that I would ever understand what a purpose was. But the feeling that I have about that is that one, yes, I do care about the state of the world and, where we're kind of headed and what things are going on. I do not get into the point of being like panicked and doom and gloom because I think the world has always had a lot of like really horrific activities going on and things that don't make sense and horrific acts against others. And when I see these things happening, the feeling that I have now is that anybody who behaves in a way that is harmful to another human being, or really anything living, that it's because they're separated from God. And so the further you are separated, the less that you can see forgiveness and the less that you can see people as being truly like an extension of you. Like everybody in this world is my brother, my sister, and they may have fallen into a state that is horrific and one that I don't understand and I don't know why they're doing the things that they do. And I'm not going to condone the things that they do because of the state that they've fallen into, but I believe that God necessarily doesn't condone it, but always will forgive it, because God condones the state. God does not condone the man. And that is how I've always viewed something. And the more horrific that somebody behaves and the more um, outwardly hurtful they are to other humans or to themselves, it's because they're so far separated from who we truly are. And they're so far separated from the love and the forgiveness and everything wonderful that there is in this world. And while I definitely continue to keep people that are like that in my personal prayers, and I want to see people lifted up, and I want to see more people awaken to the beauty that we have in this world and the things that we're able to do, and just that like, there's so much good still in the world, and I guess that's what I'm trying to get to is, like, that's more of where my focus really is. Now, that does not mean that I don't keep these acts in my prayers and that I don't give to charity or I don't volunteer my time or that I don't, take, steps to better my own community and to better, the little humans that I'm raising. They're not so little anymore, but the humans that I'm raising. So what I like to do is I like to look at what I can affect within my bubble, right? And to me, that's like the people that I'm raising, the way that I'm spending my time, what I'm teaching online, what I'm sharing with others, leaning into forgiveness because I do want to leave the world better than when I got here. And I want to see, I would love to see like wars ended, and I would love to see that everybody has a full belly when they go to bed. Like world hunger and child hunger is actually something that just it breaks my heart, and I don't ignore those things. And I think in this community that that's something that happens a lot. Now I may feel overwhelmed in the change that I'm able to provide as a human, but I do the things that I feel like I can. So, I volunteer, I give to charities, I write state representatives, I do the things that I feel that I can affect. And then I also pay attention in my prayers. I lift others up and I see that they are trapped in a state that they are further away from God. And because if you're close to God and you're close to your connection with God, you don't have a desire to hurt another person. Like hurting somebody like that and physically like ending someone else's life and doing these things, especially for like power and wealth, just it doesn't make sense to you the closer that you are to God. Like, that actually ends up being something that is so foreign of a behavior. Like, to me, I don't understand how somebody's mind even works like that. And so, while yes, I do pay attention to it, I also pay attention to the really wonderful things that I see in the world. I do not get caught up in doom scrolling the news because I also realize that the way that our information is digested right now, you are telling, the algorithms what you want to see by the news that you consume and what you continue to pay attention to. And I don't want to stick my head in the sand, and I don't recommend that anybody else do, about the horrible things going on in the world and the way that people treat other people, and that there are steps that you can take to pay attention to it and to keep it in your prayers and to not just ignore it. Like, that's just something I've never quite understood. Like, how can you ignore that another human is hurting? But I also don't put so much focus on it that it makes it that I can't accept good in my life or that I feel guilty for accepting good in my life. Um, and that sometimes can be a little bit of a struggle, to be honest, and maybe I do feel a little bit of guilt sometimes about it because I don't wanna ignore those things, and I don't wanna ignore the privilege that I have for where I was raised and the position and, like, the country that I was born into and the, discriminatory things that I have not had to deal with. So really all of that to say that I think you can pray for the things going on in the world. You can still take action within your own life to make changes within your community, to kind of spread kindness, to spread caring, to spread the message truly of God and truly from the Bible, that we all need to love each other and we need to recognize that when somebody falls into a state that they are further away from God than you could ever imagine, those are the times that they're hurting other people, and that's just a state. That's not saying that the man themselves is completely, too far gone and could never be saved, because I think God can save everyone. And so I think there's ways to find a balance between caring about what's going on in the world and making sure that you're doing things to change that and to provide support to the people that need it, and to feel good about that, while still making sure that you are not allowing it to become so overwhelmingly crushing for you that that's the only thing you can see, because there really still is a lot of very beautiful things in this world. And there's a lot of people who treat each other really, really well. And it's like, I think it was Mr. Rogers who said, always look for the person helping. So no matter what's going on, and, if you're feeling down or you're struggling with like what's going on and just like, how are people not paying attention to this? There's always people helping. And if you're not seeing somebody help, then what help can you be? What can you give out to the world that would help you also then feel good about the things that you're doing and the way that you're behaving and treating kind of everything going on? So I hope that that makes sense and that it's perfectly clear that, my stance is that we have ways that we can make change in the world. We have things that we can do each and every day that would provide support to folks. But at the same time, remember to stay centered and truly put your faith into God.